So, this is the last episode before the finale. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and welcome to my blind reaction to Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur Season 2, Episode 22. And yeah, from what I've heard, the last two episodes of this are the finale. They work in tandem as the finale, which is not unusual. A lot of shows will do that, where it's like two or more episodes will kind of like act as a big grand like close to a series, especially when it's a series finale, rather than just a season finale. But in this case, it is a series finale, and I'm going to be entirely open and honest with you here. While there are some things about Season 2B that I really enjoyed, and some aspects that I really think worked well, Season 2B as a whole has felt excessively rushed. And I think more than a lot of other shows that I've seen that got canceled and had to rush out the finale because it's like they're given just a small amount of episodes to wrap things up. Like, for example, you compare this to the Owl House. Compared to the Owl House, it's very clear that this was canceled, while the Owl House, you could tell there was more they wanted to do, but they wrapped it up a lot better, a lot smoother. They were able to make it feel a lot more natural, as much as they could given the circumstances. With this, no. It doesn't feel natural at all. It feels like they're rushing to get to the finale and just kind of skimming through main story beats without any connecting tissue, for lack of a better word, to make it feel like it actually like fits together in proper pacing. And at the same time, they threw in another devil focused episode because they probably wanted to have more devil focused episodes. But because they were canceled, they could only throw in one more, and it felt entirely out of place because of that. With how the pacing has been like as it has been for this second half of the season, to throw that in just like destroys the pacing in a completely different way, because it makes it's like it was already like going really fast with all of the heavy stuff, all the bigger stuff, and then it just kind of skids to a complete halt, literally going in the opposite direction with the devil episode, which I may be in a minority here. I actually don't know. I don't know what people think of those ones. I don't like the devil-centric episodes. So to me, it feels like a screeching halt because those episodes are so like boring and disinteresting to me. But it just feels out of place either way, in my opinion, because it doesn't feel like an episode that should be taking place at this time of the season, especially in a final season. Yet at the same time, it almost has to, just because of the context of certain things in the episode can only happen after other certain episodes. So it kind of has to take place after, for example, Adria finds out about Lunella being Moon Girl and finally comes to accept it. This has to take place after that because of that. But at the same time, it doesn't work at this point in the series. So it's kind of like this paradoxical episode that can't work earlier in the series, but doesn't work at this point in the series. But just the pacing and everything, and how it's been like having to rush through like the general like story and everything just to get to a finale, it very much feels like this was forced on them. And it really, I feel, hurts the overall quality. The second half of this season has really felt not weaker, like in terms of like the stuff happen. It's hard to explain because it's like there's certain things that are happening, like the stuff with Adria and and the conflict with Lunella with that I think is fantastic. But the way it's being handled is bad. The way it's being rushed through, the way they're trying to get to everything so quickly because they kind of have to. Like, I liked the episode with making up with Beyonder. But I don't like how rushed that was and how out of nowhere it kind of came. Considering they didn't like, they've been like ignoring that entire plot line for so long. I just, I'm not even blaming the crew. I'm more blaming Disney. Because I feel like Owl House was given more leeway and time to prepare for this. And it just feels like this was thrust like so suddenly upon the crew for Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur that their show was being canceled that they really had to just rush something out just to get it to happen. And I mean, the fact that this comes like a year after the first half of the season, it's like that's still also saying something. Plus, you also had an episode of the season that was banned. So it's like Disney just fucked over this show big time. And I'm sorry, it shows in this second half of the season. This is the final episode before the finale, and we have absolutely no idea of what the finale is going to even hold because there's been no setup for it. There's no setup as to what this is going to be about at all. And this is a show that sets things up pretty well, or at least it did. So the fact that there's nothing to set up for with this finale, we have no idea how this is going to end, is just like, I hope they at least try to do it well. But then what about this episode? Is this just going to be another random, like, slice of life kind of episode? Or will this start to set up the finale? I have no clue, honestly. And if it is another slice of life episode, it's going to feel, again, probably like weird placement for that. And I think I said this last time, but I know this show is more slice of lifey, generally speaking, than Owl House or Amphibia. I guess it's more akin to Ghost and Molly McGee in that regard. But even Ghost and Molly McGee set up its finale better than this. Even that worked towards the finale a lot quicker or a lot earlier. It's just, again, you can really tell this was canceled. More so than a lot of these other shows. I think the only way you could tell a show is canceled even more than this is when it just ends on a huge cliffhanger and stuff like that, like Glitch Techs or Dead End Paranormal Park, where it's like, oh, we're gonna leave you off on a big thing, and then it just never gets resolved because the show gets canceled. Like, at least this is at least Disney's allowing this to get finished. It's not ending just, unresolved. But the fact that they're having to rush out so much and then, try to get to certain other things, it just feels off to me. And it really sucks because I love this series. And it deserved way better than this. It just got fucked over so badly. And I really, really wish that it was able to have at least one more season. And that Disney, treated it with respect. And if they were so worried about, the series not performing well, maybe they should have fucking advertised it better. Or, had a normal fucking release schedule for it. The things that they did that are the reason why it may not have done so well. All these networks fuck over their own shows, Disney especially, and then they wonder why they don't do as well as they want them to. Netflix is big with this too. Netflix is huge with this. They fuck over their shows 10 ways to Sunday and then ask why. It's that meme. It's the Eric Andre meme with him, shooting Hannibal Buress in the chair, and he's like, why would they do this? It's like Netflix is shooting their own show's popularity. It's like, why would this show underperform? It's maybe because you're not advertising it properly. Okay, I'm getting mad. I'm actually getting heated here. That shit pisses me off. Netflix has ruined so many shows because of this. So many shows have, and the binge model also fucking ruins it. And Disney doesn't do well with this either. These so many networks and streamers these days are just so fucking terrible at advertising and properly, promoting their shows that it's no wonder they don't perform as well as expected and wanted. And yet these shows still usually have these pretty notable fan bases. Owl House had a huge fan base. It just wasn't performing to Disney's desires. It wasn't performing as well as they wanted it to. But it still had a huge fan base. Same thing with these Netflix shows like Glitch, Text, and Dead End. So many people want these to be resolved, and they're never going to be. And I mean, Infinity Train, you have to include that in that conversation. Infinity Train was fucked over so aggressively. Like, it just pisses me off, This show, in terms of its initial quality throughout all of Season 1 and the first half of Season 2, is one of the best shows Disney has ever put out. It's on the level of Ghost and Molly McGee, Amphibia, Glitch Text and Nickelodeon, but still, it's on that level. And Owl House and stuff. It's on that level of those kind of shows, these kinds of modern Disney and similar cartoons. They're all very similar in style and quality. And this is on that same level, and it's one of the better ones too. There's so much that it could say culturally, like about the world and about like how people act and react to things in the world. Like this show was like touching on like big things with like black culture and New York culture. And even touched on like, Casey's Jewish heritage and touched on a lot of queer topics. It's like there's so many amazing things that this touched on. And it feels like it's just been fucked over so aggressively. And I'm just so disappointed. And again, I'm not blaming the writers or the creators or just any of the crew who worked on this. I do not believe it's their fault. I entirely believe that it's the fault of the studio. And it pisses me off to say this, but I'm almost going to be glad when we finish it up next week. And I'm just saying this now. We are doing the final 2 episodes next week together. I'm almost going to be glad because that means Disney can't fuck it over anymore. And hopefully it ends on a good enough note to where I can still like keep all of my fondness, or at least most of my fondness for this series intact. I don't want this to like end on such a negative note for me because of the studio's interference that it ends up like hurting my overall love for the show, like like with what happened with Steven Universe and Star Versus or Voltron Legendary Defender, where it's like these shows started off and became so amazing, but then because of various reasons here and there, they ended up just completely dropping off. And this, by the way, just already is nowhere near as big of a drop off as those shows. It's just it's not even so much a huge quality dip issue. It's just the way it's paced out, the way it's like executed. That's more of the issue than the actual quality having a notable dip. But yeah, I'm hoping for the best with the last 3 episodes. We're doing this one today. We're doing the last 2 tomorrow or next week. Hopefully things will turn out better. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I'm hoping for the best possible finale we can get at this point. So let's get this going and see what this episode has in store for us. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, this was another one of those, like, you know, slice-of-life-y episodes that don't really have a huge, like, impact on anything, and it clearly didn't lead into the finale in any way that we know of. So it's like, okay. But it was also a really good episode. I did really enjoy it. I want to make that clear here. This one was really enjoyable. It didn't really feel like it needed to be at this point in the series, though. Kind of like the other episode with Devil and all. It didn't really feel like you needed to have this at this, like, right before the finale. Like, why is this here? I don't see the need for that. Unless the vibranium is going to, like, be important in the finale, which is possible. Because if that ends up being the case, then okay, I can see why you would put this here. That would make sense. If vibranium ends up being important somehow to the finale, whether to a villain or maybe Lunella herself, she does continue to use it to some degree, just not as heavily. It's like that would at least make it feel a little more worth it in terms of placement and general existence. But the episode was still enjoyable because on the surface, the idea of Lunella, like, doing this party business and everything with Casey and Devil, obviously, and even their goals for doing it, there is nothing wrong with. I want to make that very clear. Lunella wanting to, like, earn this money to get more vibranium to upgrade her tech is not a bad thing. Casey wanting to use it for her own, use her share of the money for her own purposes, Devil to soundproof his corner and everything, all of that is entirely fine. In fact, I'd even say that that's a good thing for kids to learn. I feel like there's some people out there who think kids should, like, be staying away from money, like, altogether, but I think it's kind of the opposite. Kids should be, like, experiencing money as kids so that they can learn how to properly, handle it as adults. If you don't let kids like not only just have money, but learn how to use money, they're going to have a hard time with that as adults when they need to know how to do that. This is why I believe in things like giving kids allowances. And I'm not just saying that as like someone who's like who would want that kind of thing growing up. And there were different points in my life where sometimes I had an allowance, sometimes I didn't. Just depended on which point in my life, growing up as a kid and all, and depended on my family's situation, of course. But it's like I think kids should get allowances, even if it's not a lot of money. They should get allowances, and they should be taught by their parents how to spend it. It's like, oh, you want to get like a new game? Maybe save up your allowance and you can get a new game later on. Instead of like using your money now to buy, I don't know, ice cream or hot lunch at school or something. It teaches them to save, it teaches them to understand the value of money better. That's why that kind of thing is important. I'm not saying you have to give your kids like a huge allowance growing up. No. But like depending on what age they are, like $5 to $20, somewhere in that range, I think is perfectly reasonable. Like obviously less money when they're younger and don't need money for much. But like when they're teenagers, giving them like $20 for an allowance, it's like, yeah. And again, it lets them like really understand how to utilize money and everything properly. Again, obviously, you have to account if you can afford to do that too, mind you. Different family situations and whatnot. But I think it's important for kids to learn the value of money that way. And so, like, kids taking the initiative and trying to earn their own money through, like, little jobs like this, I think is phenomenal. Like, whenever I see, like, kids, like, wanting to, like, open up lemonade stands and shit like that, which we actually, I believe, saw in this, I love that shit. And if I have money and I pass by someone, like a kid with a lemonade stand, I will absolutely patronize. I will become a patron of it. Patronize sounds wrong and bad. You know what I mean. I'll patronage. Is that more correct? I don't know. I'll buy their lemonade. If I have the money and I'm like walking by and stuff, it's like, yeah, absolutely. Because I want to support that. And usually a lemonade stand won't be that much. Like, depending on the kid, it's going to be like between 50 cents and like $2 for a cup of lemonade. Which is fair. But yeah, it's like, I'll absolutely do that. Because it's like, it goes to a good cause. It helps them like understand the value of money and allows them to understand like there are ways you can earn money like that will allow you to experience things you like. Whether it be using that money to get food, candy, games, whatever. And it can be used for a lot of purposes. Like, I watched this show called What Would You Do? It's a show that's basically a bunch of social experiments. It's on ABC. It's really good. Basically, they take these actors and put them in real life locations like stores, boardwalks, restaurants, and they have them act out these different scenarios based on things that do happen in real life. And one scenario they ran in one of the recent episodes from this current season that's going, they had this young girl actor working a lemonade stand. And they had this adult woman actor come to the lemonade stand and start like putting her down. It's like, this lemonade is terrible. I want my money back. And also the lemonade was being sold for a higher price than normal, $7. But it's like there was this other kid who wasn't an actor. And they were seeing how this other kid would react. And they did this with a couple different kids and everything. The parents were in on it. The parents were watching from a control area. So it was all perfectly handled. It was safe for the kids. Everything was good. Just to qualify that, but yeah, it's like they were seeing how the kids would react and if the kids would like comfort the girl at the lemonade stand and stuff, and they did. And we saw how they helped out and everything, and even were willing to try the lemonade and even give advice. These other kids were like giving advice, and it was great to see, and I love shit like that. And it's like this is these kind of things are like kids should take part in this stuff, and schools even help with some of this. You know how schools have these fundraisers where they'll give kids like this box of candy, and they'll be like, oh, go around to your family, your friends, etc., and see if they'll buy like a candy bar for $1 or $2, and then you turn in the money and you can win prizes and stuff. I did that a couple times in school, and it's like I love that shit. That's so cool, you know. It's a way to like allow kids to better understand this, so again they can understand money better as adults. So yeah, I have no issue with what that was going for, and the issue came in with obviously Lunella becoming so obsessed with it to the point where she was becoming unsafe. She was showing off her new gadgets, which she couldn't properly control or carry because of the weight and everything. And it was causing problems at the party to where, the parents and whatnot were demanding their money back. And eventually it caused them to, like, run out of money to the point where it was hindering them. Not just Lunella, but Casey and Devil as well. The issue wasn't what she was trying to do. So the lesson being like the lesson is like kind of a weird point for me with this episode, admittedly, where it's like, oh, you the magic of Moon Girl magic is like making these inventions and gadgets out of not the highest tech and whatever you can get your hands on and everything like that. And it's like that's a fine lesson, but with the context of the episode, it's like there wasn't anything wrong with her wanting to get her hands on that tech or even getting the tech. It was how she was handling it. But I mean, I have no issue with her like going back to the way she was doing things before. It was just her greed was becoming insatiable and she was like not, paying attention. She was so excited about the tech, she wasn't paying attention to how she was using it and how it was affecting the parties that she was using it at. That was the issue. Martin Lee's very sudden inclusion in this was very welcomed. It was a very different take on Martin Lee than, like I said, in the PS4 Spider-Man or PS5 Spider-Man 2. Which, again, Spider-Man 2 I played here on the channel. You can go check that out. Martin Lee is in that game. In those games, Martin Lee is much more down to earth. He, alongside Aunt May in the first game, runs the Feast Center, which is basically a center to help out the homeless and needy. He's a very down-to-earth, kind person who ends up getting basically forced into villainy because of Norman Osborn, which no surprise there. And the second game actually has him go into this sort of redemption arc and some nuances with that. He's a very nuanced character in general. But I don't know how he is in like the comics because I never read any of the comics with him in it. But he has a lot of depth to him that I really loved. And in here, they just kind of turn him into this like rich bitch. Which, I mean, is very enjoyable. I really enjoyed him. I enjoyed Bowen Yang's performance. Like, that is not an issue for me. It's just, it's a very different version of the character than I'm used to, is all. But yeah, he didn't even get to show off, like, the extent of his powers. His powers are actually really intense. Like, he can mind control people. He can like uh not just create swords, but create like energy blasts and like control things with his powers. It there's a lot to it. He's pretty strong. He can even like um kind of like suck you into his mind and like battle you in there with like these demon creatures and stuff, these demon like constructs. It's really wild. Martin Lee is just a really cool character. Um and I do feel like they just bringing him in like the final third of this episode, they didn't give him enough time to truly shine, but I still enjoyed him. I still liked it. I feel like Martin Lee could have been an interesting like final villain almost for this. But I doubt he's going to come back as the final villain after this point. Um, but yeah, I don't know how these last two episodes are going to go next week, but I'm just hoping they're good. At this point, I don't need it to be anything like hugely spectacular or like this phenomenal thing. I just want to be entertained at this point. I want it to be good enough to leave me off with a good taste in my mouth, you know? I don't want to leave this series off like soured by anything. We'll see how it goes next week when we get to the final two episodes. And hopefully it ends up being the best possible. Sorry about that. The male person came. The dog was snoozing right by me and she freaked out. Hey, hey. Calm down, you. Calm down. Calm down. See, she's just... She doesn't like people coming to our door, right? You don't like people coming to our door, do you? Calm down. So yeah, we'll see that next week. For the meantime, tell me what you thought of this episode of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. What did you think of Mr. Negative, Martin Lee's appearance in this? And thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.